It's Wednesday, February 10th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, shows we watched a reasonable amount of and then just never finished them. Quite a topic there for you guys.
Let's do this.
So, if any of you listened to the Monday episode this week, my knob came today. And
He's going to polish his knob all night.
I'm going to use that knob to crank out a whole bunch of editing on the Utena thing that is part of, Patreon and all that.
You're going to spend all night calibrating the knob. You're not actually going to get anything done.
I'm going to be knobbing a lot tonight after I get the show up, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Maybe the knob sucks. Maybe the knob's a bad deal.
Like
maybe
I said, you're going to get a whole bunch of knobbing in. You're not going to get any work done.
Maybe I'll send the knob back if it isn't optimal. But a bunch of people I trust told me that the knob's a good deal and that it's a good thing I bought the knob. So you got any news in this anime, manga, comics episode of Geek Nights?
I do have a news. So, the New York Children's Film Festival is coming up. And even though we're not children, that is always a great opportunity to see some animated films, which tend to be thought of as children's films, even when they're not.
It is, in fact, one of the best ways.
Yeah, and in the past, we have used this opportunity to see such movies as, I think we saw when Marnie was there.
Yeah.
And we saw
We pretty much see
Summer
everything.
Wars.
Like, every single movie like this that comes out, we just immediately go watch.
It's basically, we tend to go see those anime movies that aren't the number one top tier anime movies, like the big time Ghibli movies that get put out everywhere, and you're right, but also aren't the lowball ones like One Piece 15 or whatever.
Of course, a lot of these are the ones that get a wider release later, but we get to see them pretty early.
Well, so for example, we saw Summer Wars that didn't really get a wider release in the U.S.
Which is a shame, because that's one of those movies that you can get mom to watch and be really into.
Sure, and then we saw when Marnie was there, and that got a little release.
Yeah,
right?
Even though that was a very artistic big boy movie in a lot of ways.
Anyway, but so now, Mamoru Hosoda, who seems to make anime movies right in that zone.
And who has also been getting increasingly furry as time goes on.
Sure, his new movie is, I think we've mentioned on the show before, is Boy and the Beast.
Yeah,
I guess they replaced the beauty with the boy.
I think we haven't talked about it a lot on the show, partly because it's just, we're going to go see it immediately.
But
as soon as we can.
It's getting a wider release. So on March 4th, if you live anywhere near a major, place and not, the middle of nowhere where there's nothing but a multiplex, you should probably be able to see this movie.
It's an anime movie that I will predict is going to be good.
Yeah, even in secondary cities, say, I don't know, someplace like Omaha, Nebraska, you should be able to see this movie. I didn't actually look at the list. You might not be able to. I didn't actually look at the list of theaters it's playing in.
I don't know. I give it a 50-50 shot if it's in Omaha.
Yeah, but that's better than it's way better than the 0, right? That you would expect. So yeah, March 4th you can see this movie, and also there's Oscar nominated. It's award season for movies, right? So in the nominations for all the animation categories, Boy and the World, the Brazilian movie, seems to be winning, beating out Boy and the Beast. It's a battle of the boys.
Yeah. So Emma
also, of the movies that are nominated, 4 of them are distributed by GeekNights.
Yes. GeekNights is always just hitting it out of the park.
Well, they're pretty much just no one else wants these amazing animations from other countries that aren't America, and we will just license all of them and put them in America. We win.
Yeah. But Emily and I were looking at a lot of the other movies in the festival. I think I'm going to go see 3 or 4 movies. There's good stuff in there.
That's a lot of movies to go see.
Yeah, but there's good stuff. Good shit. Good shit. Bunch of good shit.
Yeah, well, you can go see it. It won't be hard to see.
So I realized how, we used to attend a lot of anime conventions, and a lot, and we did a lot of panels and shows and staff and whatever, but you can tell how far out of that loop we are that so our friends that were like, oh, let's hang out because this weekend we're going to be at a con. And I assumed they were going to be at some dumpy con upstate somewhere because, there's a con every weekend somewhere in the Eastern Seaboard. And I was like, oh, what con are you guys going to? And they're like, Katsucon. And I was like, whoa.
That's a moderately big con.
Yeah, it was a con that we not only used to go to, but once hosted a late show with live music and Steve Bennett as a guest. And we learned a lot about the Civil War reenacting hobby and about why he has that hat on.
A con we went to with our friend Katsu and didn't make one joke the whole time about how his name was the same name as the convention.
Yeah. A con where we were on the staff and actually...
Technically-ish.
Yes, we were brought into the staff and all we did was there was a video game room that had like an arcade. Like an arcade that's better than what PAX has today.
But not like what MAGFest has.
No. But it's like the size of the PAX one.
It was about the size of the PAX one, but better game selection.
Yep. And we just DJ'd that room. Like, that was our job, to play music and DJ the room and just kind of be there. Weird times back in those old days. But, yeah, it's coming up, and I learned something interesting about Katsucon. They moved to the Gaylord where MAGFest is. Apparently, the Gaylord has a ridiculous and draconian, like, anti-photography rule across the entire facility.
What?
There's crazy rules about photography.
MAGFest is like photo central.
Yeah, so from what I can gather, there was running discussions between the multiple conventions, fan conventions.
I mean, the MAGFest photo policy is pretty much the same as every other convention's photo policy, but I think it says something like, you know, like you have to license your photo to certain, like Creative Commons or whatever, like you can't be, you know, which is fine.
So I don't know if MAGFest did anything with the convention center, but the convention center's technical rules were apparently pretty bad. And from what I found out from Katsucon, that they have this official statement pointing out that the Katsucon has a special photo policy from the Gaylord for Katsucon that is considerably more relaxed than their standard policy. So you are allowed to, at Katsucon, take photos in public areas, which apparently you weren't allowed to do.
I mean, I'm sure whatever policy the hotel has on its own can
so long as you use
bought
handheld equipment only. You may not set up lighting of any kind. Photographers and your subjects must respect the hotel environment by not being disruptive, which I guess the problem was people were like getting in fountains and things.
Okay.
And everyone's got to have a badge. Which I guess makes sense.
You can't be in the convention without a badge, regardless of photography.
Except, yeah, which is interesting because that space is weird because a lot of it is not part of a convention that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're outside on the street, it's a public street.
Yeah, but like the Shrek area, I guess you can take your cosplay photos in there, but that's not part of the con as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but it's still in a hotel lobby, so it's still a privately owned area, so they can kick you out, right? You don't have a right to be in a hotel lobby. Like a homeless bum can't just go in the hotel lobby and fall asleep.
Yep. So I was digging around to try to figure out like all the deal, and there's an interesting story back there that I stumbled upon because I was reminded that Katsucon existed. However, the only anime con we perform at is still Anime Boston because Katsucon, as far as I can tell, does not comp its panelists. So yeah,
so we'd have to buy a badge and then do panels?
Not buying a badge to provide content.
Not buying a badge to any... I don't buy a badge to PAX. I'm not buying one to Katsucon.
Yeah. But anyway, all that aside, little geek bite. I watched with Emily all of Over the Garden Wall, like all the way through. It's like 10 episodes long.
I've seen half of it, and I've seen I haven't seen like it wasn't like I saw the first half. It's like I saw episode 1 and like episode 4 and like the last episode.
So we watched all of it, and I've almost watched all of it again because it is crazy good. So once Scott watches it all, then we'll probably do a show on it. But just go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's like 10 episodes long.
I don't have Netflix.
Yeah, or no, I think it was on Hulu. I forget.
Oh, that's good. I can watch it there.
I never know what anything's on anymore because I just have them both. But yeah, I think it's Hulu.
I only pay for what I want at a time. Why should I waste a bunch of money?
It's 10 short episodes. The best way I can really describe it as cross-adventure time with Waiting for Godot. And just watch your show. Like, you're going to wonder just watch your show. It's really well put together.
It's got some Song of the Sea in there also.
Yeah.
Or maybe the other way around. You could say Song of the Sea has some Garden Wall in it.
Well, you know what? It's Waiting for Godot, but then Godot shows up. That's what's going on in this thing. Also, the bird, Beatrice, might be my favorite character.
Yeah, I saw one bird episode where they were like, "Oh, bird, could take you back to your nest," and the bird was like, what? And the bird went somewhere else.
Yeah, the bird is Scott, and like, if you were gonna cosplay a character because you're gonna act like them, you're Beatrice. Beatrice is just like, yeah, you guys are dumb. Let's go this way.
Beatrice.
But anyway, things of the day. So I remembered this from when I was a kid, like little kid, and I never was really 100% sure what its deal was until I stumbled upon it randomly on YouTube. This is a made-for-TV movie written by Dr. Seuss, released in 1980, before I was born. And it's called Pontiful Pock, Where Are You? The story of this movie is that there's a sad kid who's kind of dumb, whose parents died and left him a rundown house that he's too dumb to maintain. So a local business owner gives him a job at a pickle factory out of charity. He proceeds to fuck up the job by pushing on the pull him and pulling on the push him. So they arrest him, and then fairies give him a magic piano that'll take him to a faraway land where he can get a new start. He does this and then angers the locals so badly that the military attacks him. He goes to a series of other places and continues to fuck up. And the moral of the whole movie, go back home, work in the pickle factory. That's the best you'll ever do in your life. The end.
Well, if you're Pontiful Pock, that's true.
Yeah, but he never makes it out of that pickle factory. I'm surprised they even hired him back at the pickle factory. I don't know what this movie's trying to say, because as far as I can tell, it says be grateful for your miserable lot in life and don't try to better yourself.
Yeah, that's why my number one Dr. Seuss is the Lorax, the real one, not
He speaks for the trees.
not that CG bullshit, right? You know, and then if you really want to get fancy, right? If you really want to fuck your brain up a little, you know, you want to double your Pontiful Pock power, go and watch the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
You were talking about that the other day.
Right. See if you can find it and then watch it and tell me what you think about some real Dr. Seuss.
So what do you got?
Oh, thing of the day? All right, so there's a guy that you know but you don't know if you're a nerd, and that man is named Boshek. And before today, I knew who Boshek was. I just didn't know his name was Boshek.
It is telling that I read an article about Scott's thing, and then Scott asked me if I knew who Boshek was, and I was like,
Rim didn't actually read the article. That's why.
I read an article, but...
Yeah. So, there's this guy named Boshek. He is in Star Wars Episode 4 for like less than a second. When Obi-Wan goes into the cantina, and he's got these like bounty hunters, not bounty hunters, like smugglers lined up, and he's talking to them, and he's like, "Hey, who should I? You want to take us for a ride?" There's a guy standing in front of Chewbacca, and the guy's like, "Nah, but you can." He points, and he's like, "Hey, you should talk to the Wookiee, right?" That guy is Boshek. Well, at least that's the character's name. How do we know that's the character's name? Because if you buy the toy, there's an action figure for Boshek, and it says Boshek on it. So that's how you know.
Wait. So let me get this straight, because this is why this is an amazing thing. There was a character in one of the most well-known movies in human history who had a speaking line.
He didn't say anything.
Oh, he didn't. They asked him, but he didn't respond.
He just points, right?
He
he talks, but you don't hear him talk.
You know what he had? He had some direction other than
his face
was on.
His face was on the screen.
He was addressed by a major character in a pivotal scene, and he had an action figure.
Yep.
And yet no one knew who he was.
Well, I mean, Star Wars nerds knew that character is named Boshek, and they probably know more like alternate universe stuff about him that's no longer canon. But nobody knew, at least nobody knew who the actor was. They didn't know who that person was. Like, there's his face on the screen, clear as day. But, like, you search and no one knew who it was. They wasn't in the credits. So, and it's like they even called up, like, Lucasfilm and, whatever. No one knew who this guy was.
Now, imagine that. You work at a job and someone calls you and they're like, hey, who the hell is that person in this photo of your company?
So clear the person's in a movie in the 70s, right? They could look up other movies around that time, find a similar-looking actor. And there were some, possibilities. People saw, that got clips of like this one TV show in the UK where there was like a Russian thug who looked pretty similar to the guy, and they're like, oh, was that him? Maybe, I don't know. So this guy was investigating. It's like, it's my mission. I'm gonna find Boshek. That's what I'm gonna do, right? So he goes out and he's looking. He can't really find. He's starting to give up. And there's a whole article written by the guy, Billy Jensen. It's BillyJensen.com. And eventually, one day, he gets contacted by someone, Barry Gregory, and Barry Gregory was the grandson of Boshek.
Oh, snap.
And then he immediately emails Barry back, and he got the email address of Barry's mom, who I guess was Boshek's daughter, Sylvia Holt. And Sylvia Holt said, my dad, Mr. Francis Alfred Basil Tomlin, played the part of Boshek. Everyone knew my dad as Tom. Unfortunately, my dad passed away over 11 years ago. It'd be nice if we could get his name recognized as his claim to fame was his part as Boshek and a stormtrooper in the first Star Wars film.
Now, my question to the archivist now is which stormtrooper?
Well, no way to know that. But as proof, she sent him a photo, and there is no question, unless Boshek, Mr. Tomlin, had an identical twin.
Wait, it might be taller Boshek.
Unless
you know about the taller Luke thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless he had an identical twin, there is no doubt that this is the right person. And how could you the odds of being able to get a photograph of this person without being related to them are so small. So now we know who Boshek was.
So you know every year there's like the news events that spawn Halloween costumes and cosplay. Like someone's going to dress up in a tarp and that kind of crap like next year. Like what are the hot costumes? The pro move is to dress up as Boshek. You're going to see a lot of Bosheks.
That's already been the pro move. You're not going to see any Bosheks unless you go to Star Wars Celebration, which I don't even know if they still have
I'll
that.
bet you $5 we see a Boshek at Kineticon.
No.
You want to shake on it?
We won't see one.
Will you bet $5?
Are you going to... Well, you might convince someone to do one, right? You can't... Like, how can I know you didn't, right? That's the problem. That's why I
might convince someone simply by having made the bet.
Let's bet, I told you so.
All right, we'll bet I told you so.
Okay.
That way there's no incentive for me to pay someone to dress up as Boshek.
That's right. Because you easily could do that.
You know what? Actually, the pro move would be to dress up as the guy in the photo that proved he was Boshek.
You can't just find a guy who looks kind of like Boshek either and be like, oh, he's dressing as...
Yeah, because the problem is I can imagine a lot of people who kind of look like that, just wear some like vaguely 70s clothes, and yeah.
He's got to look like the action figure with the same, flight suit and shit.
And if you ask him, he has to be like, I'm dressed up as Boshek.
That's right.
And now, if they're dressed up as the guy, that counts too.
Yeah,
as long as they know.
If you ask them, who are you, what is your costume, and they say, I'm Francis Alfred Basil Tomlin, then that will count as well.
Yeah, that if that happens,
then you can say I told you so.
If that happens and it's not one of you listening right now, whoever it is, I'm going to interview for the show. Just be like, all right, dude, let's talk.
Right.
So in the meta moment, we're going to be at MAGFest next weekend.
Woo!
We're going to be on a bunch of panels.
Hopefully they clean up the Katsucon by the time we get there.
Yeah. Apparently our friends are actually going to Katsucon and just staying for the week for MAGFest like we did between PAX East and...
What do you do in National Harbor for a week, and doesn't that cost a lot of money?
What did we do in Boston between PAX and Anime Boston? The answer was we drove to New Hampshire.
That's right. We did something.
They're going to do a similar thing. They're going to like go around in the area, like have a base game, like go out and like visit people and stay with friends and all that stuff.
All right. Well, make the most of it.
Yeah. And of course, don't forget, one of our 3 PAX South panels is on YouTube. The other 2 will come as soon as I finish the Utena episode. GeekNights presents Utena episode 14, which I'm about a little over a third done with it, but with the knob. Watch out. I think I'm going to get it done real quick now. Otherwise, yeah, show. So recently, like I'd say the last 6 or 7 years, it's very rare that I'll watch more than like one episode of an anime and not finish it. Like I'll watch a show and like halfway through the first episode, I'm like, nope, and I never watch it again. Or I watch the whole show all the way through because it's that good. But there was a time in the distant past where Scott and I would both watch like tens of episodes of shows and then just stop for some reason. And we realized that we've done a show on anime we've never seen that are really important or big, I guess. We did a show on shows that we've seen but never reviewed for some reason. We did an episode on shows only Scott's seen, on shows only Rim's seen. We never did an episode... Oh, and we've done episodes on shows that were bad based on one. Never done a show on shows that we watched a significant amount of and then for whatever reason didn't finish them.
Okay.
It's kind of like, very few, like for a long time in my life, I had a sort of personal rule. If I started reading a book, that was a fiction book, no matter what, if I got past the first chapter, I would always read it to the end, no matter what. And there was a book that ended that for me, and that book was Dragon's Gold, Serpent's Silver, Chimera's Copper by Piers Anthony and some other chucklefuck. That might have been the worst book I ever read, and I got about halfway through that monster before I quit.
Okay.
Like, it was just, like, it was bad, and I just hated it, and I hated it more and more and more. And then this voice appeared in my head and said, Rim, just put it down. Just throw it away. Just never open it again. That you don't have to finish it. And yeah, so that was the best we could come up with because I watched a bunch of shows Scott hasn't watched, and Scott read a bunch of comics I haven't read. So we're in that situation here again.
Maybe you should, watch the same thing I watch or read the same thing I read.
What? Name it. Well, yeah, you're not watching any cartoons, though.
I just watched all of Evangelion.
We've not only have we already done multiple shows about Evangelion, but we did a show about anime that we watched again.
Yeah.
So you want to do an
but
episode?
After watching Evangelion again, I understand all of it now. I have like 100% clarity.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I only had like 90% clarity before.
There's only a few shows I'm like that with, like Utena, Evangelion, Escaflowne. Like those are the shows like I've just seen. So there's an episode, Scott. Shows we've rewatched more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Like the shows that get the annual watch or the biannual watch.
I haven't watched this in since I was living in Beacon.
Yeah,
so.
it's actually, when I think about it, those kinds of shows, like it's like about a 4-year-ish cycle.
This was like 7-8 years.
Yeah, for me, it's about 4 because I watched Ava again about 5 years ago because I had that Platinum whatever edition, and I just watched it like on my laptop while I was traveling, just like, all right, Ava. So I think the show that really typifies this and is going to start it all off is Attack on Titan because I have technically seen all of it so far, but we know there's more coming. And
you mean you've seen all? I mean, if there's like a season, it wasn't even a season, right? It wasn't Attack on Titan season 1. It was Attack on Titan, and you saw every episode, so you've seen it all.
But
anime-wise, if we don't count the manga or anything.
True, but we do know.
I guess there is an OAV that comes with one of the manga volumes that I have that's about the diary or whatever of so-and-so.
Yeah, but it is one of those shows. It's not like, I don't know, a shonen fighting whatever show that's going to have like 700 episodes that goes on forever. At least I hope not.
Nope.
But it's a show that has a story, and at the end of what's come out so far, that story was not done.
No.
Like, not even close.
The manga goes on, and I'm sure the anime will pick up again at some point.
So I just kind of assumed I was going to watch it when it came out. Like, whenever there was new Attack on Titan, I'd just watch it. But then I didn't even read the manga. I just read every spoiler I could find.
I got mangas, and I've read a bunch of them, and I think I'm going to stop reading them.
Yeah,
I read the spoilers. If anyone wants a whole bunch of Attack on Titan volumes, hit me up.
And once I read the spoilers, I realized that the only thing... The action scenes I liked, and I liked the characters, but then that kind of got played out. There wasn't much new. All I actually cared about for the second half of the show was what's going on. I wanted to know the mystery.
Right, well, in the manga, it gets to a point where it's not real. You don't get that sort of, character stuff anymore. You don't get like, Potato Girl and whatever anymore. And they start telling you more about the terrible secret of space, which is the best part.
The problem is it's not
the terrible secret of space is neither terrible nor it's a disappointment. It's not
terrible. It's just terrible.
Right, exactly. Usually, the terrible secret of space is something amazing, or it's something that just fucks with your brain. But this is just like, whoa, that's so lame.
Well, like, there's Titans in the walls, right? And now I know, like, what they are and why, and it's just super dumb. And the coordinate...
It's like you could have come up with a cool reason for why things are the way they are, but even the expected reason that, everyone, the most common theory that people would have at that point. But no, it was something dumb.
Yeah, I think the things that really made me not give a shit was, like, the secret of his dad is dumb. The king, that stuff goes nowhere.
The king is the number one thing, right? So the king, it's like they talk about royalty and like the royal family, and you know that in the middle of the town, in the most secret place where the terrible secret of space is kept, always in the middle, the center, the big tower or whatever, right? I mean, this doesn't actually have a big tower in Attack on Titan, but the metaphorical big tower that all animes have, where all the secrets are. Right? In Evangelion, it's actually a big hole in the ground where at the bottom where the secrets are. And it's like, ooh, the king. We've never seen the king. We don't know anything about the king. It must be this mysterious, awesome dude who's got like super evil and he knows everything and he's got these machinations, right? And in Full Metal Alchemist, this King Bradley, and while he's not, he's not like the perfect ultimate badass king. It's like it's still like, whoa, that's his deal.
Well, you know what? He's got weight. Like when it gets revealed, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, son, King Bradley. Oh snap, right?
The king in Full Metal.
King in Attack on Titan is like the biggest disappointment. It's like, really? Really? That's what the king is? Really?
It's disappointing in two ways, because one, all the theories you might have are so wrong, and it's so dumb.
It's so dumb.
It being revealed sends the show in yet another direction that is also dumb.
Yep.
So,
it's so disappointing. It's like, oh, that's what the king. Oh fuck, I don't give a shit.
Yep.
If they could have just done the cliche thing and made the king a badass of evil, and I would have been like, oh shit. How did he become a badass of evil? What? It's like, where does his power? What's
Yep.
where does he know? Nope, they didn't do any of that.
So is it because remember way back because there was Noir and Hackside, and we watched all of Noir.
Well, those shows weren't really that related except for the music.
Yeah,
and
but
the time in which they came out.
Exactly, but that's how anime, that's how they're stuck together in my head because one of them tricked me, and then I realized what was going on with the other one. Because Noir, not good. Like, real bad after the first 4 episodes.
It wasn't super bad, but it's not good.
Like,
it's just an anime.
Rim of 2016 would have watched the first 5 minutes of the 5th episode of Noir and said, nope, and just turn it off.
Probably.
And been done.
Yeah.
But Hexine was, I think, the first anime where I consciously wanted to watch it. Everyone else I knew was into it. I was like, oh, this is the big show. And I was really into it. And I was trying to be into it. And then episode 13 came around. I was like, you know what? I just don't care.
Yeah, that was, there's a lot of, most of the animes actually that I started and did not finish, even their full run of, was for this reason, which is it just dragged and nothing happened, right? So Hacksine is the biggest drag of them all, where it's like, Key of the Twilight.
Key of the
Twilight. Where is the Key of the Twilight? What's the Key of the Twilight? Where is it? What is it? What's going on? And they just are like, I realized at a point, like after 13 episodes, they made like one step of progress towards the Key of the Twilight. I was like, for like 7 episodes, nothing happened, did it? No, nothing happened for like the last 7 episodes. Well, I'm done watching.
Yep.
The same thing happened in Naruto, right? So in Naruto, it's a situation where it's like fighting this big guy with a big sword who had like a partner who stood off to the side, and after 13 episodes, they beat the guy with the big sword, and then like my brain woke up and was like, they've been fighting the big guy with the big sword for like 7 episodes. And
now I had quit before they even beat that guy because there was a moment where like Naruto did a move, and everyone
that was in the fight with that guy.
Yes,
I
so
think.
Luke and everyone in the anime club was watching it faster than I was, and they were like, oh my god, when you find out how Naruto does the thing, like, it's crazy. And then I saw it, and I was like, they just made up a bunch of proper nouns. That's all they did. Nothing. They didn't even animate it. And I stopped watching. But you kept going.
I went for 13 episodes-ish, right? There was another show. What the hell was the name of that?
See, at least with the shonen fighting shows.
There was a shonen one with the little pet that had a pointy nose.
Oh, yeah, Rave Master?
That's the one.
You watched that show. I didn't watch any of it.
All right, I watched Rave Master because it had this cute animal friend with a pointy nose. And after some number of episodes, I forget how many, I realized, wait a minute, this show has been in this one throne room-ish room fighting for like at least 5 episodes now. I'm done.
Yep. But I never even started that one because it was another show.
I only watched it because there's a cute monster.
Yeah, but also like people.
It's also a kids show mostly.
We're all talking about it. Like I saw the spiral nose guy everywhere at conventions. I was like, wow.
You still see him occasionally.
Yeah.
He's cute.
Yeah, but who is the person who is still into that show? Like
nobody.
Now?
No one even remembers it.
Or like
other shows.
Remember Yu Yu Hakusho? We were really into that.
I was about to bring up Yu Yu Hakusho. So
that was the one I couldn't remember the name of until a second ago.
Oh. So Yu Yu Hakusho is a similar situation where actually I think Yu Yu Hakusho is better than all the shows you just mentioned by a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, it actually is the best example of the show that starts strong. So Naruto, the first few episodes are funny ninja school, and then it drags, right? Rave Master, the first few episodes are like Gennaro Fantasy, and then it drags, right? Hacksine, the beginning doesn't really do much, and then it drags.
Yeah, you know what? Episode 1, and then it drags.
Right. But Yu Yu Hakusho, the first 2 episodes start so strong, setting up the world, and then it's like tournament time, and it's like, man, come on.
I think Yu Yu Hakusho was the show where I went from watching a bunch of episodes of a shonen show and then being disappointed to starting to see it coming ahead of time. I was like, wait a minute.
It's like if you just made, instead of having the stupid fighting part, if you just made all the episodes just like those first beginning episodes that set everything up, if you just progressed plot without fighting all the time.
However, there is the problem
of having an explicit tournament of fighting.
So it's not that analogous, but Full Metal Panic had plot that was serious, and interspersed with that plot was ridiculous nonsense and comedy.
That's a more typical pattern where the comedy starts in the early parts and then it fades.
I mean, Full Metal Alchemist.
Slayers does the same thing that Full Metal Panic does, where the comedy is strong in the early episodes and then it fades as the plot takes over in the later episodes.
Yeah, but so I watched about half of
The thing
Full Metal
is, with
Panic.
Full Metal Panic, the comedy is okay and the plot is really weak. And then I actually watched the whole first season because I don't know. And then I watched like one Fumafu and I'm like, nope.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Inuyasha got me pretty bad because it was Rumiko Takahashi, but it was actually really good. And I was like, wow, this actually, like, the plot is moving Escaflowne style. Like, shit keeps happening. And there was literally a moment where they have the MacGuffin. I'm like, oh, wow. Because, when there's a show where, like, you expect the MacGuffin to be the whole show, and then the MacGuffin's, like, done in the 4th episode?
Yep.
So that happened, and then they dropped it, and it exploded into a million shards, and the one character's like, now we have to go collect all the shards, and I literally hit pause and was like, welp.
Shouldn't they just be on the floor right in front of you?
No, they flew off around the planet or something.
Use a vacuum.
So then there are the shows that we actually liked and just stopped watching for some reason. Like Ergo Proxy, Scott and I were watching in Beacon.
Well, we were watching it on Netflix physical DVDs.
Yeah, and I remember, like, we weren't super into it after the first couple episodes, but then, like, it got better and better as it started to deconstruct itself. It was like, oh, maybe this show isn't about what we thought it was. This looks interesting. And then, as far as I can remember, a DVD came that was scratched and wouldn't play. And then eventually we got another DVD that was a different one that was also scratched and wouldn't play. And then we just kind of forgot about the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about friction, right? And, like, effort to watch another episode, right? So, like, if I have the whole show right there and I've got nothing to do, I'll just be like, next episode, until I've seen the whole thing, right? Unless something stops me.
Yeah, like when those Ergo Proxy DVDs came, we watched all 4 episodes like that day.
So something stops me, right? So let's say I watch, 6 episodes of Evangelion, and then I got to go to bed. That stops me.
Yep.
Right? Now.
Sometimes it doesn't, though. If the show's good enough, like that 6th episode ends, it's 2 a.m, and you're like, I got to watch one more.
Right. And then, so the next day I get home from work. Is the show strong enough to make me, after or while eating dinner, pick it up again, right? It's like, does it have the strength to occupy my brain space from the previous day? And in a case like Evangelion, it sure does. But not every show has that strength. There were a lot of shows where I could watch them a bunch, and then I completely forgot about them. There are other shows, say, for example, like I was watching Space Runaway Ideon.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I was watching it while biking inside, right? So I'd bike inside and watch Ideon at the same time. And then the sun came out one day. And I was biking outside and no longer biking inside. So the habit of watching Ideon every day disappeared.
You know what happened to me? Same thing? Old Sailor Moon when it was re-released.
Yeah, I didn't have this sort of... It wasn't able to pull me like... Man, I really need to know what happens in the next episode. I really care about this show. It was just this habit. And if the habit was broken, there wasn't anything pulling me.
Yeah.
The show didn't have any strength to
some
make me watch another episode. There are also times where that's happened with shows where, like, a weekend or a convention or, it's like I'll be watching it all week and I'll go away and come back and I'll forgot that I was watching it.
That was when we were rewatching Old Sailor Moon because they were releasing like 2 episodes a week and I was just keeping up.
I think we went to a Scott Johnson party and then came back and then forgot.
Yep, because then I was a little bit behind and then I just let it get further
behind. Leave
behind.
town, come home, you missed the habit. And they were releasing 4 episodes a week or 2 or something like that.
It was more than 1.
Right, and then it's like, well, I didn't watch them last week and I didn't watch them this week and now there's like 8 of them and I'm like, well, I'm way behind now.
Yep, but as opposed, like Ergo Proxy had a strong drive to the point that we tried 2 times to get the DVD to watch it before we gave up. Mm-hmm. So actually, I feel like
there were other shows we got a Netflix DVD that we didn't finish.
Yeah, well, you know what the best example of that is? Fucking Kaze no Yojimbo.
That's the one I was about to say.
Yeah, that's a show.
We did an episode on a long time ago. You can go listen to that episode because I don't remember it enough now, but I definitely have a podcast of a time when I did remember it.
But the show basically had a problem where it was pretty good, but like after an episode ended, there was a moment where I realized I didn't really give a shit if I never saw more of it.
I do not give any shits.
It's not like Cowboy Bebop where you show someone episode 1.
You show them half an episode and pause it, and then they're like, want to kill you. They're like reaching to push the unpause
Remember
button.
that was it Pete, I think, who had never seen Cowboy Bebop?
Or Alex, maybe?
Yeah, it was one
I
of
don't
our
know,
friends in RIT. I
somebody.
think it was Pete.
Maybe.
Like, 'cause we were at school, we moved into our apartment early. Like, school didn't start for like days. And we were all hanging out. We were like, oh, you've never seen Cowboy Bebop? What the fuck? So we showed him one episode. We're like, this is what it's like. We'll show you an episode and we'll lend you the DVDs. And then the three of us just watched the entire show that day.
Yep.
All the way to the end.
Yep.
I think we broke for dinner and we ate dinner watching episodes. Like, it was. So there are shows that are bad, but they're not really, they don't fit on this list because usually if a show's bad, we're just like, well, that's bad. We don't watch it.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, there's plenty of things I've seen one episode of, and then that's it, right? And that's like, that doesn't really count as stopped watching, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't watching it really to begin with. I just was glancing or inspecting or whatever, right?
but like, I remember Love Hina was
I watched
real
the whole
big.
thing.
I don't know how because it was real big.
I will tell you how I watched the whole thing. Love Hina came out our freshman year of
Was
college.
the turtle? You want to get to the turtle?
Well, yeah, turtle. There was
Yeah.
a turtle episode, by the way.
Yeah,
they
I
didn't
know.
disappoint with the turtle, like the horse in Utena.
I assume the turtle stole someone's bra though.
No.
Really?
Maybe it did, but I don't remember. So, Love Hina, freshman year of college, we saw like 1 or 2 episodes at Anime Club, and it was just cute, and it had a turtle. So, I downloaded the whole thing. And this was towards the end of that freshman year. So I didn't watch the whole thing in college, but then it was summer, and I did some camp counselor action in summer, and then I was in
Oh.
and then I was in Connecticut, in my house in Connecticut, with nothing to fucking do in the summer, except, I guess, sit outside in the summer. And I had my computer, and I had a 56K modem. So,
You know what?
and I had CD-ROMs, and on those CD-ROMs was every episode of Love Hina.
That, Scott, is a different episode. That is an episode of Geek Nights, shows we watched all of because we were trapped in the wilderness. Because I did the same thing with Read or Die TV. That show is garbage. But I had it. I had a bunch of DVDs with it burned, like pirated, and I was living in a place with no internet, and I was bored. I watched the entire show, and it is terrible. At no point does it redeem itself, ever.
Well, you know, Love Hina wasn't the worst thing to watch because I had not at that point watched a harem show, and I guess
Everybody gets one.
you could find a lot worse harem shows. I'm not saying Love Hina's good. Don't watch Love Hina.
No. If you're gonna watch a harem show, like full disclosure, watch Tenchi Muyo.
I don't want anyone to misinterpret and think I'm suggesting they watch Love Hina.
because Tenchi Muyo is not good. but-
For the one harem show that I've seen all the way through, it's like that's, I could have done a lot worse. I could have done better, but it's like, it's fine.
Tenchi Muyo is the best harem show.
Mm.
I'm gonna say it like that. In that genre, the best harem of girls guy character show. It is the best
It
one.
has to be one guy and a whole bunch of girls.
Yeah.
I feel like there's other shows that meet
Because
that.
Tenchi had enough sci-fi and humor going on to. It's not the worst show in the world. Like I give it a solid B rating overall.
I mean, there had to be other shows that are technically harem shows that.
but
are
they're
better.
all. There's other Tenchi that's real
I'm
bad.
just saying.
But yeah, I guess there's a factor where Love Hina was a show where I quit watching it because one, I was creeped out by it. Mostly when the young character came in, and then they kind of kept like she was part of the harem. That was when I started to notice that shit going on more and more in anime.
Yeah, I mean that's it. By watching the whole thing, right? I was learning about the evils of those ways, and now and then after that, I was well informed.
Back then, we didn't know the
and
word
was
moe.
able to avoid danger in the future.
Yeah, like we didn't know what
I have
moe
not-
was.
I have not hit any danger since then.
But
I've been protected.
Shows like Love Hina, the
I
anime
built
club,
up a resistance.
the anime
It was like a
club, and the anime
vaccine.
fandom around us were super into it. So you get into a situation
At the time,
Yeah.
for like about a week.
But it's a situation where there's a show that all the people around you are watching, and you watch a few episodes and you don't like it, but everyone else keeps watching it, so you feel like, well, am I missing something? Am I dumb or?
No, they're dumb.
Yeah, they're the wrong ones, not you.
Right now, are there any shows that were actually? Because all the shows you mentioned so far were like, oh, it was a show that we started watching for some reason, but the show wasn't actually any good, so we stopped. Is there actually a good show?
Ergo Proxy. We stopped because of
that's
technical difficulties.
Technical-
So, Razafon, I hear, is a really good show, but
I've
I got
seen
about,
the whole thing. It's
I got
okay.
so I've heard reviews of
The
it
beginning is way better than the later parts.
ranging from it's pretty good to it does Ava better than Ava.
I don't know whoever said that is fucked up in the head.
I'm not super believing that,
That's a fucked up, stupid person.
but I just kind of stopped watching it because after 4 episodes, I didn't feel like it was going where I cared about, and I just stopped. But it
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily that bad.
I think I just watched it all because of inertia. It's one of those shows where if I had been interrupted by, say, a trip out of town, I probably wouldn't have continued watching.
Yeah.
But because I was in a situation where no blockers came in, I just kept rolling like lazily on and saw the whole thing.
Oh, here's one. So Fujiko Mine, when it first came out, we watched a couple episodes, and it was crazy good.
Yep.
And I watched every episode as it came out. But then I basically got distracted and kind of forgot it existed. Like
I was also distracted. And I didn't forget it existed. I was just doing other stuff.
But I forgot about it for a long time. And it was only recently when all the new Lupin stuff started coming out that I was like, oh, right, Lupin.
I didn't finish that other Lupin, and I haven't seen Lupin in a while. I need to refresh my Lupin
so
meter.
I think
drained.
We're entering a golden age of Lupin.
It's Lupin. It's definitely Lupin o'clock right about now,
that
or
bell,
really soon.
That bell is ringing so hard. Those clock hands are crushing so many counts.
Yeah, it is currently Lupin o'clock. Actually, maybe I'll watch it when I get home.
Yeah. When you get to the point where Lupin sees the owls too, that's when it starts to get into the plot, like the plot. I
never seen a Lupin with a plot. That wasn't just a movie that ended.
Yeah, I mean the show is just yay. It's like the SpongeBob of heist anime. Yeah. Shows that are really good that we never finished.
Well, one of them for me is one that people love the fuck out of, which is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, right? So I was watching the newer one, the one that has the roundabout closer, which is one of the best closers I've ever seen, right?
I watched a bunch of episodes
and I was into it. I was enjoying it. I wanted to find out what happened. I cared about Dio is so evil and badass. I wanted to see him get some fighting action, right? And I was also curious because I'd known a lot of stuff about JoJo's, and I know that they go to Egypt at some point. And
I read a ton of the manga.
Yeah, I wanted to know about that shit, right? And it's I was into it, and then it got to this point where okay, he's learning some fighting powers, and then they meet this huge dude they have to fight. And then
now you're describing every episode of JoJo's.
Right. And it was ooh, I'm okay, I'm with this. There was some fight in a castle or something. And then I just didn't watch the next episode when it came out. And then I fell behind, and then I forgot about it. And then that was it.
The problem I have with JoJo's is that I love everything about it except actually watching it.
I think that's what it is.
I love the aesthetic. I love the characters. The story is so just fucking crazy that I love it. But I actually watch it, and then I just kind of...
when I actually watch it, it's I might enjoy myself while watching it, but there's no pull for the next episode.
Yep.
Right? It's it doesn't make me want any more.
Because I'm not really worried about what's going to happen, because what's going to happen is going to be JoJo being aha, I did X because of Y and Z.
Right. For some reason, Fist of the North Star is quite similar, but when you watch Fist of the North Star, it's I just want to watch another one. It's I'm when I watch a JoJo's, I'm sated. I'm oh, all right, that was amazing. I'm good.
I think
you
Fist
eat
of
a
the
delicious
North
steak
Star,
and then you're full. But if you eat Fist of the North Star is a delicious steak where you eat it and you're just hungrier.
Fist of the North Star does a better job. They're both trains going somewhere, but JoJo's, you can't tell where the train's going at all unless you know a lot about the JoJo-verse. But Fist of the North Star does a good job of pointing out, train's kind of going in this direction. You can see where this train's going. You want to go where this train's going? Well,
I will go. I will ride that Kenshiro train wherever it goes.
But, you get on the JoJo train, and then just, cars start falling off into pits.
And they're station stop, New York. And I'm oh, this is my stop.
Yeah. And then they're what's the next stop? Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, fuck that.
So there's a bunch of shows that I watched a bunch of just because I was stupid, and I
haven't had that problem.
Well, when anime was not super easy to come by, or when I first got to RIT anime, it was probably the worst. There's 3 times in my life where I watched three times where I watched a lot of bad anime. The one time was when I watched Read or Die TV because I was alone in the woods. The time before that was when I got to RIT and got access to the RIT anime library, because all the great classics of anime as far as the previous generation to us of anime fans was concerned was there. So I had all these senpais coming to me and being oh, Marmalade Boy is a super important anime and you should watch it.
I actually didn't watch any of it.
Yeah, Marmalade Boy, not a good show.
Oh, I hope they're listening.
Yeah.
How about that Kimaguri Orange Road that they love so much?
Oh my God. So I liked Kimaguri Orange Road a lot, but I also stopped watching it because it's not good.
How about that Please Save My Earth they love so much?
I was really into Please Save My Earth because it was the first show I'd seen that had like the really, really deep secret of space with a lot of like, it looked real deep and like there was a lot to chew on and analyze. And then I got to the end of the show and I was like, oh, not only did they not get to explaining all of it, but what little they explained is really dumb. Kind of like Attack on Titan.
So you bring up the Anime Club library. That makes me remember there were shows that I was getting tapes of weekly and then stopped. And the number one of those was Cardcaptor Sakura. It was just such a famous show at the time, and I just started watching, and I didn't disenjoy it. I just, I only could get 2 tapes a week, and I stopped choosing that one because there were other choices. And one of the choices I picked was one of the best shows ever, which is Patlabor, right? But at that time, I didn't finish the show. I actually went back and finished it later in life. And the reason I didn't finish it was because those VHS tapes they had, I don't know why. I think I heard from somewhere that they were just direct rips of the Laserdisc and that they were structured in such a way that you would get 1 OAV episode and then like 2 or 3 TV episodes and then the second OAV episode and then 2 or 3. So like the order was all fucked up and I couldn't really 100% follow everything that was happening. And when I was able to rewatch it years later and see that is the best thing ever, I was watched the first OAV, the first TV, the second, I watched it in the correct viewing order and was able to get everything out of it. So that's actually a show that I stopped watching and did go back and finish later. But I think that might be one of the only ones where the shows that you stopped watching and then actually did go back to and watch the whole thing at another point.
There's a whole separate class of the shows that are really good or funny and really long, but are so episodic that they're like a Seinfeld, where you're not going to marathon a season of Seinfeld.
Or Lupin.
Yeah, you're going to watch an episode, like Nichijou. Like, I probably have seen every episode of Nichijou.
I haven't.
But in a completely random order, because I'll just be like, oh, let's watch Nichijou.
I just saw goat gifs, and I watched a couple episodes, and I didn't see any goats, and I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, I like the show a lot. There's some good stuff in there. But like Ranma or Urusei Yatsura, I love both those shows.
Yeah, I've only seen like a handful of Ranmas.
I've seen like
and
30
two Urusei Yatsuras.
I've seen a ton of Urusei Yatsura, and I've read most of the manga that was released in English, at least in the old days. Or like Gintama's like that too. Like I really like the shows.
I thought Meizan Ikoku was the manga you read all of.
Meizan Ikoku has a serial plot. Urusei Yatsura is just nonsense.
Oh, it's so much better.
Yeah, actually it is, because you can pick a random episode and watch it. And I guess they count because I have not seen every episode of these shows. But
that's true.
I really like them. And I feel like actually I should just start picking up random episodes and watching them again.
I feel like I should watch Urusei Yatsura in order.
We could just start cranking them out one a week.
Sure.
I did I watched the first 5 or so in a row a few years ago, and then I just stopped for some reason. I think I got busy.
Mm.
Then there was Sailor Moon Crystal, but that was just bad.
It's a different story.
I've never actually seen the Lensman movie, like the anime.
I thought you owned it on VHS.
Yeah, I've never seen the entire thing in one go.
How is that
I've
possible?
seen every part of it. But I've shown it to people so many times, but then I'd like leave the room or fall asleep that I've never watched it awake from beginning to end in my entire life.
That's really strange.
Yeah, but I've seen every minute of footage in the movie, or at least in the dub that I taped off of the Sci-Fi Channel.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It is really weird, but it stands out in my mind. I almost feel like I should never watch it because I'd always fall asleep. Especially, there's that part at the end where he's with the green guys flying, kind of like near the last battle. I'd always wake up with the green guy flying really fast through that scene near the end. So whatever I'd miss in that middle, I'd just kind of wake up at the green guy flying. I'd be like, well, that happened again.
Okay. I've started reading the Lensman novels, and I read a bunch of them, but I didn't finish all of them. Does that count?
Actually, because I wrote down a bunch of shows. So, Great Teacher Onizuka.
I forgot that existed.
That's a class of show that it seems.
I started watching the show and reading the manga and didn't finish either one.
Yeah, I was super into it because it was really funny. And then nothing new happened.
It didn't have staying power.
Yeah, like they ran out of jokes and they just got more and more perverted, and I just didn't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There was another show that I was really into. The Boys Over Flowers.
Oh, yeah.
The original, the anime.
I think if I'm going to watch that, I'm going to watch the live-action drama version from Country of Choice.
I
don't know if the Korean one or the Japanese one is better.
I watched the anime pretty much all the way up until people started dating. And then the show kind of ran out of steam because I didn't care anymore about any of the people.
That anime was way strong in the beginning. And then,
with the F4.
That's what it's about, no matter which version you watch. It's about
Actually,
F4.
you know what? That show and Nana both had that same problem. Like
Nana, I didn't finish either.
Yeah, because Nana was great, and then it got to a point where like, wow, every character is an amazing person, except Nana, who's actually really boring, and now this is just becoming like baby mama drama, this like basic girl ruining her life and making poor decisions. This is like some made-for-TV nonsense now.
Mm-hmm. All right, do you have any more? I think I'm running out.
I'm running low here. I mean,
I'm sure there's more I can't think of.
I used to go to anime club marathons. You know, we'd at least once a month over a weekend at the RT
I went
Anime
to them
Club.
a lot less often than you, but when I did go, I usually saw the whole thing.
Yep. But the first one where I left as opposed to watching the whole show was actually Magic Knight's Ray Earth.
Yeah, I didn't go to that at all.
So I went.
I have the manga. I only read the first volume.
It was another one of those famous shows that a lot of people were super into.
It's a little hard to follow.
Yeah, so I watched like the first 9 episodes.
At least the manga's hard to follow.
And then I went outside to like get a snack, and it was real warm and nice outside because it was during the summer.
So you just didn't go back in.
So I was like, you know what? There are things more important than anime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, there's things more important than Magic Knight Ray Earth. if that had been Evangelion, I would have been right back in that room.
That's right.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The patrons for this episode, in order of the amount of money they give us, are Nicholas Brandau, Rebecca Dunn, John R. Nobbs II, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian Kuntz, Jess, Sam Cordery, Mechanical Mind, William Eisenrose. You expected the next name to be yours, but it was me, Dio. Clinton Walton, MyStady.com, Phil Ulrich, Renee from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Silverod, and then he placed a single finger upon his mustache. Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, he was a dark and stormy Gnigget, Daniel Redman, Chris Haddad, Doug Schneider, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. We're actually getting pretty much back into the swing of things. We've got MAGFest 4 days, which might prevent us from doing a Thursday show next week. But after that, we've pretty much got nothing until like PAX East and Katsucon and Anime Boston and all that nonsense. So pretty much 100% back on Geek Night's schedule for the foreseeable future. I'll have the 2 PAX videos up as soon as I get at least 1 Utena up, then I'll get the second Utena up, since we actually recorded episodes 14 and 15 the other weekend when we did our film shoot. This coming weekend, we might record episodes 15, 16, if we can, even 17, because the more video I get recorded, then it's just a matter of me having the time to actually edit it all together, and as I've said repeatedly, I have the new knob, so I might be able to do it pretty quickly. And now, I leave for you something that's kind of amazing, and it's particularly amazing if you watch the movie, but only watch this one part entirely out of context.
I'm a lucky young man, oh, I have a piano that'll take us away from it all. Let's